let me introduce to you our first scholarship recipient, Caleb Wong from McKinney Christian Academy, who is accompanied by his parents, Lolo and Dina, and his sister, Elizabeth. So, Caleb, would you like to come up, please?
Thank you, everyone. I'm so pleased that you have me here. So I'm going to start with my essay. I've never been home. Yes, I was, born in a hospital somewhere in San Antonio, like most other babies, but I was not brought up in a community, but rather the world. I have lived in 3 countries and 3 states. Political scientists might divide them into red and blue states, and weathermen might describe them as bitingly cold or oppressively hot, but I cannot quantify my experience there with a thermometer or by the political tendencies of the electorate. I think of people I have met, of places where I have lived and never came back to, of secrets that never yet came to light, and most poignantly, of what I once touched but left forever. For much of my childhood, I felt like a lifelong tourist, like a perpetual guest who belonged, not because of any identity he had staked out for himself, but because of his father's association with the Air Force. My father, a dentist, not only changed the course of his career path, but also of his life, the direction of my life, when he reported to officer training school on August 20th, 1990. I flew around the world on the coattails of his sterile blue scrubs as the family moved with him from one city to another every few years. I knew more about the world than I knew about myself. Only when the Air Force relocated our family to Plano, Texas in 2009 did I finally find an identity within an organization that I'm still with to this day, the Boy Scouts of America. I still remember walking into my very first meeting wearing a shirt my mother picked out for me. Gawky and terribly shy, I didn't have many friends. I found my only refuge and devotion to an altar stacked high with books. In a fit of infatuation, I had read the Boy Scout handbook, cover to cover, eager to go camping and take part in the historic ideals the Boy Scouts had championed. That night, I listened carefully, tense on the edge of my seat as the leaders of Troop 226 introduced themselves and what they did. I nervously shook hands with scouts around the room who were a mere 5 to 6 older than me, and yet a world apart in responsibility and sophistication. The big question loomed: would I join? I did. Joining Troop 226 was the best decision I ever made. For a long time, I could never quite tie a bow line or start a fire, but my troop and patrol carried a sense of camaraderie that could never be found in suburbia. When my family moved yet again to Britburg, Germany, I continued with the Boy Scouts, which culminated in the construction of a baseball scoreboard for my Eagle Scout project. After 3 years of living in Germany, my father retired from the Air Force after 22 proud years of service. And we finally moved to McKinney, Texas in August of 2012. Once again, I felt the pangs of friendship broken as I said goodbye to my friends, never to see them again. Teenage angst clouded my thoughts as I sought to make friends at McKinney Christian Academy, my new school. At first, I could barely remember people's names, much less strike up a meaningful conversation with them. I found myself eating lunch alone at a desolate part of the table. Despite joining the cross-country team and seeking out ways to join the wider community, I felt that other people from my life were missing. Initially, I felt the same way upon joining Troop 496, my newfound community of Boy Scouts in McKinney. Although I had already earned my Eagle Scout rank, I felt that I desperately needed the camaraderie of the Boy Scouts again. When I attended my first meeting, the size of the troop shocked me. Attendance often exceeded 40 people at each meeting. whereas I had spent my formative years in scouting in a small 10-person troop. I felt left out, but I continued to attend troop meetings and activities in hopes that circumstances would improve. To my surprise, I felt at ease within McKinney by the end of my junior year, through persistence and a relentlessly optimistic smile. I joined the leadership team in my troop, made some amazing friends, competed at the state level in the TAPS academic competition, and a surprisingly reversal of fortunes for someone who used to keep to themselves, read the school announcements over the intercom every day. Reflecting on the year, I felt elated, grateful that I had been able to create a place for myself within McKinney. I would call it home, but I'm going to move again away to college, so I will have to start this whole relocation process all over again come fall 2014 at the University of Texas at Austin. Despite the apprehensions of others, I am not afraid to move again. Even when I'm feeling down, whether because of forceful problems such as an upcoming test, an awkward conversation, or maybe too much cheese in my salad, I always put a smile on my face. Despite never having a real girlfriend, I am a reckless flirt and I'm willing to do nearly anything for a laugh. Although I'm technically 17 years old, my friends tell me I look like I'm 15, and I have the mindset and smokiness of a 5-year-old. Whenever I walk into the playground, I get my 15 minutes of fame as these kids chase me like a mob of gangsters. I am no Jackie Chan, but I always get away in the nick of time. As Mark Twain said, age is an issue of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. The same can be said of perseverance. If you don't mind, or at least can tolerate, the drive to always be your own best advocate, you can go far. Because I have moved so many times, I've learned to embrace change. I remember struggling to teach scouts first aid at Boy Scout summer camp in Germany. Although I had at least a few close conflicts with others as a first aid instructor, the first-hand experience of teaching has given me the confidence to give public presentations, to say something bold, whether out of conscience or for a laugh, and to make new friends wherever I go. I use my lessons learned from teaching to become a prominent leader within my troop just a year after joining Troop 496. If I don't give up, I'll learn, then more people will be willing to give more of their time to you. If I had to give advice to other teenagers in my situation and to my younger self, I would advise them to do exactly what I did: persevere and have a sense of humor about the relocation process. It is important to continue doing what you love, in my case, going camping and being a Boy Scout, and to do well in school. Because of my extracurricular involvement, I received a number of scholarship offers from schools and gained admission to a number of excellent honors programs. And most of all, I would encourage anyone moving anywhere new to take a risk. Even the new kid in town can do anything, whether taking on a leadership role or becoming more socially active, if he or she just speaks up again and again and again. When I was 11, I felt very insecure, but I thought I knew what I wanted to do, become a writer or an editor. Since then, I've greatly broadened my horizons. I feel more in tune with myself, but my aspirations for the future are now very different. And I know they could change at any time. Drifting around the world as a military brat gave me unusual perspective, but now it's time for an intense, focused exploration to my future. As Jack Kerouac said, nothing is behind me, but everything is ahead of me, as it ever so is on the road. Someday, that road will take me home. Thank you.